You're busy, you've got a decent practice, but nobody wants to be decent. You want to be great, and you want to have a great practice. So how did the most productive, profitable dentist in the nation balance real life, work, and profits, and somehow make it all seem fun? Well, it comes down to simple, everyday practices. So grab a lunch, join us as we chat with top clinicians and influencers to discover their formula for uncommon success. Are you ready? Then it's time to explore everyday practices.
Hey everybody, this is Chad Johnson. Welcome to Everyday Practices. We're thankful for you listening episode after episode of these podcasts. I'm here with my co-host, Regan Robertson. Regan, how you doing?
I am eager today, Chad, eager to share with our listeners the guest that we have. He's going to give them some great advice, I think.
That's right. And you're coming in from Anacortes, Washington, north of Seattle, about an hour. And I'm coming in from...
Yes, indeed.
Yes, and we've got Lil Wayne, Dave Diehl here with us today, Dr. Dave Diehl from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Sorry. But Dr. Dave Diehl has been on our show before, so we wanted to welcome him back because he always has a good attitude and whatnot. And with our national/international flunk that we're going through, I'm sure life hasn't been peachy. So fill us in on your on your roller coaster of emotions that I'm sure is the same as mine. And therefore I'm sure it's the same as anyone else's where, at first like, oh, come on. And then it's like, oh, crap. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, we can do this. So what's it been like for you?
That's pretty much exactly what I would say it's been like. At first you're kind of cavalier about it and, oh, you know what, we can manage this. Only the elderly and, we can manage this, and then, so you kind of get a little bit of comfort and you get your brain around something. And then sometimes 6 hours later, but for sure a day later, then things change. And you're like, okay, wait a minute. Now I've got to readjust again and I got to figure this out. And so every day or two for sure, your plan changes, your focus on what's important changes. And, for me, I've just been trying to tackle what I see at the moment as the most emergent need and spending as much time as I can on educating myself on whatever that may be, whether it's personal protection equipment, whether it's the employment law stuff or it's patient safety, of course, and then what is an emergency, what's not an emergency, and then how we navigate through each day. And even this morning, I went into work and planned on being there for a couple emergencies and we got a couple extras. And, when you walk in the door, you have a certain idea of how it's going to go. And, within 45 minutes, we were on a different path. And so anyway, but doing as best we can and trusting that our government's doing the best that they can. And I know politically people have different views and different opinions. But
no, we don't. I just thought I'd throw you off. I just thought I'd throw you off for a second there.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's tracking with you. And
yeah.
What are some of the examples of ways that things have changed unexpectedly, kind of hour by hour for you?
Well, I think, kind of like that first one about when it first came out, it was only a very small percentage of the people were dying. And those people were predominantly elderly, very elderly, 80 years old, I think was what the first things were said. And so that gave us a sense of kind of, well, okay, terrible, for certain people and something we are very sensitive to, but the rest of us, it's just going to be a bad cold. But then as that changed how we mentally processed our safety as a team, as an office, as a dentist, and how we saw that interaction with our patients. Because at first we thought, well, okay, we can take care of them. Or I have a CEREC machine, and just like Chad does, and I thought, well, hey, we're at a tactical advantage. If somebody has a broken tooth, we can fix that tooth and put a crown on it today, and that's going to give us an advantage.
Yes.
Yeah, no temp. And so I thought that was going to be, I really honestly have thought of that before. And I thought, this is something that will give us a little bit more comfort in these times than others. But then it became pretty quick obvious that, okay, wait a minute, that's not necessarily considered emergency services. And so that's the idea of how we're going to treat people or patients and generate some income has changed quite a bit. That's one of the really big ones. And I can go on.
Do you foresee PPE changing when we come back?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Um, It'll be very interesting to see how this rolls out. If we come out on the other side of this with a vaccine or a way to inoculate ourselves, or, the majority of us,
Yes.
then maybe we'll go back to the normal. But if there's still, let's just say some people don't get exposed to the virus and there's still not a treatment or a vaccine, then I would have to imagine we're going to continue on with some very high level PPE.
Yeah. I see the talk right now, like the latest talk is, 3D printing your N95 masks or stuff like that. And so, just trying to figure out, are we going to need to do a lot more? I don't want to just say compliance with CDC, OSHA, state board recommendation requirements and stuff like that. I'm talking about exceeding it
Even
because
above
of
and
patient perception,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or, how is that going to change? And that would all be prognostication at this point, trying to figure out, like, do we need to wear hairnets? Do we need to wear, do we need to change, gowns, every 30 minutes and just stuff like that you don't even think about at this point. But like, if someone were to hear this 20 years from now, they'd be like, well, of course, that's what you do.
Yeah.
Have you seen the video? I can't remember who did the video, but I just saw it last night. Somebody posted it in one of the groups. It was an example video of if saliva was the color of blood. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah, and what it looks like on your mask or on your face. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, and thinking of PPE in that regard, I was like, what on earth are we going to do? I mean, the doctor that I saw today came out with a face mask, fully head to toe protective gear, and a plastic face shield over the top of that.
Yep.
So speaking of like hairnet, Chad, there was no place on her body that wasn't covered in some sort of protective gear.
Right.
And you are, and Regan, you're like in the epicenter, right? I mean, Seattle, Washington area. Am I right? Yeah. And so you're
absolutely right.
Yeah. Your experience here where I'm at, you're not seeing that type of behavior, but we are seeing people wearing masks to the grocery store and maybe wearing gloves, and hand sanitizers are everywhere that we can get them. And grocery store is the only thing I've done in the last 5 days or 6 days. And so I mean, what you experienced may be a little bit further, a week or two behind us or whatever, or ahead of us.
The doctor that I spoke to mentioned that the problem with the masks is that the virus itself is small enough to get through the general masks. And I think that's why, I don't know if you changed to N95 masks, or is N95 the standard in dental?
Well, it has not been the standard in general.
If I could admit something, I didn't even know what an N95 mask was prior to Monday of last week.
No.
I have always had level 1 or level 3 mask. Yeah. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, there's something different. Well,
I mean, you and I both would have known that there was something, more, but like what it was called and what the cutoff of using it. Yeah. Who knows?
So been quite a lesson. We've learned an awful lot in the last week, haven't we?
Yeah. Regan, you had a couple questions that you wanted to, to ask Dr. Diehl quickly before he gets back with his patients.
In between patients. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I have one on Wednesday.
Well, one of the things that really inspires me about all our PDA doctors and really gives a lot of hope to me is facing the reality and going through the emotional journey of that, and then the resiliency that I've seen in all of you. And so now that you're in the reality of what's happened, I've heard you and I've heard others say, well, now we're planning. So are you planning, like, what steps can you share with listeners on what you're planning for when business opens again?
All right. Okay. So at this moment, we're really early in the planning. Our main focus is on planning. To be honest with you, our main focus is planning what we're going to do tomorrow, what we're going to do on Wednesday. How does the rest of the week work? All right. But outside of that, yes, we are thinking, because I had to let not all my employees go, but the majority of my employees go. And so what does it look like when they come back? I see 3 different versions. We'll just start with a negative. Okay, so let's just say the economy has suffered so much that it's going to be hard for people to come back in. And let's just say, what does that look like? So how many employees would I need? we'd have a skeleton crew in that scenario, and I have 2 associates. So how can we, support 3 people, 3 dentists in a practice like mine, with limited hours. So trying to mentally process that. And then the second, I think it like a small, medium, or large. We're going to have a very skeleton crew. We're going to have a medium-sized crew. Let's say it starts back up, but it's going to come in waves. Maybe we find out that people are going to be, resistant, or we're going to find people are safe, or whatever that is. And we can see people, but it's going to be at a reduced rate. And then the other one, and the one that I'm hoping that we all hear is, hey, okay, we're cleared. We can go back to work, and it's going to be an influx of everything. So we've talked about, and we're going to have a backflow so we've talked with the staff about, if we come back, be prepared for scenario C is going to be, we're working 6 days a week, all hands on deck, and we're working, as many hours in a day that we can. And of course, they love hearing that. And then the other one is that we may be some lesser version of that. So as far as my planning goes right now, Regan, that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm hopeful as we go a little further down the road that we have a little bit more clarity on what that may look like for us.
Beautiful.
But I think one of those 3, I don't know of any other option,
Well, there is something that I noticed that no, I'd agree with you. I don't think so either. During this time that you have been doing online, there's been a fun way, I think, that you stayed connected with your community, or at least I've seen on Facebook. Can you share with people how you've reached out and provided them some, hope and stability?
Well, thank you. So for me, it seems like right now communication is really important. I mean, being able to do these webinars is great, right? And other groups and organizations I'm part of, we're doing webinars instead of meeting in person and sharing information. So my thought was, I sent out an email blast to all my patients, and it was good. It was I think we had that out by Monday afternoon, but I think it was on Tuesday. I have never done a FaceTime live stream on FaceTime, and I'm on Facebook more than anything else. So I did that, and I just kind of went down and just kind of explained some of these things. And at that point, what we were afraid of, what we were nervous of, what people could expect. And I just tried to outline some of the things, what we're doing at our office, to say, look, not only are we doing the normal universal precautions and doing it even better than we've done before, which, be careful with what I say on that, but you know what I mean? We're just, everybody's stepping up their game even more. And we implemented a whole slew of things in the office as far as personal protection, as far as like when the patients come in the office, and went down an outline of things and how we're protecting them above and beyond universal precautions, like Chad was kind of saying earlier, just doing everything we can. And so I think that I think that was a well-received video. I got a lot of really good feedback on it. And then, a day or 2 goes by, and then we kind of updated things, and we kind of said, okay, now we're really just going to see emergencies, and just tried to be in the face of the patients. And I found I've got a lot of good feedback on it. A lot of people have said, hey, I just appreciate you letting us know what you're going through and how you're handling it. And so I've been, and in fact, I may end up doing another one, maybe not tonight, but probably tomorrow morning, but just almost like a public service announcement. And so just nothing but good positive feedback on it. It's been really helpful and calming, I think, for the patients, and even for my staff. They're still looking for leadership on my part, and they're looking for answers as well. And so it's been really good, I think, overall. I mean, it's been great.
Oh, I'm so glad that you shared the first video, getting over that. I've never done a Facebook Live thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, doing one video is good, but really to see you do the multiple ones and to give the update, it gives that sense of, I guess the stability would be, or just like you said, keeping in the know, making sure you can never over communicate in a time like this. So I thought it was really, really beautiful. And I'm not surprised that you got great feedback. I'm glad that you did.
Well, well, thank you. It's one of those things. And one of the funny things too, making that human part of it. So I did the first one in my office, and one of my employees had walked into the office to drop off some paperwork or something, and she didn't know I was doing that. And she was so cute and so funny. She ducks down and she crawls on the floor, and you can see her head bobbing on the thing. Anyway, it brought that human side to it, and a little bit of humor, a little bit of levity. It was nice. And we had some similar things, in the other video as well. So it just kind of, it was all natural. It just happened, and it was kind of nice. So it made it good. I think it's a good thing.
Dr. Grammer down in Granbury Dental Center, and Dr. Okada, which is at Bruce's office, they did a TikTok video. Neither one of them have, I don't think, a TikTok account, but one of the team members did, and said, I have to tell you, there was a couple days, watching all the offices close and feeling for everyone that I really was not feeling so great. And they said, we don't want to make light of any situation. We just want to bring a smile to your face. And it made me laugh so hard. And I watched it multiple times. And I said, thank you so much for doing this. We need to remember to keep the lightness through this situation, because we will get through it. And we will absolutely, there will be a green light on that other side.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah.
So, fun. Yeah, I just think that's the best thing we can do is right now, we're at a point where we're seriously considering, I'm setting up that tele exam or whatever it is. My dogs are barking in the background. I apologize. But
at your office?
No, I'm at
Sorry,
my home.
Another lame joke. I try and get through all this garbage with.
You do so well with garbage. You're awesome.
Yeah. You know what?
Chad's been hosed down, right? You've hosed down your bike and hosed down your own
That's
body.
Right.
Chad has made me look at pictures of Woodrow Wilson's teeth.
Oh,
if
guys,
you want to go down a fun adventure, Google Woodrow Wilson's teeth.
Poor guy. Oh, man. But, my trouble, Dave, is that I think the thing that I'm nervous about on the whole is, number one, the economy, but for dentistry's sake, I'm an optimist. And if this is how I'm feeling, then surely I should be leading the pack as far as the optimism and stuff like that. And if how I'm feeling is how I'm feeling, I don't know if I'd call it realistic or pragmatic or something, but I'm not necessarily, pessimistic, but it's sure far off from where I normally am. And if that's where I am, then I kind of fear for what other dentist owners or associates even for that matter are feeling. And so that's tough. I just thought I threw a shout out, Dave and I and Regan, this is just, I don't know, almost on the let's take care of each other on a spiritual note, but if any of you guys want prayer on stuff, if you're down with that kind of stuff, then you can email us. You can find us on our Facebook post. My email is at productivedentist.com. You can get a hold of us that way, and stuff like that. But I don't know how to help you out other than to go to the big guy that can help. And so we're just throwing that out there. It's not something that we plan, but I just thought I'd say, if I'm feeling cruddy, then surely a lot of people that normally are 50-50 about dentistry and the business, they've got to be feeling a rough week. And I get it. At least I think I was the most nervous about okay, are we going to close? And then when we did close, it's well, there's no fear about that now. So I guess we've just got to go down that trail. And so I think I'm less nervous about that and more resolute about, okay, well, now it's just a wait. The longer it goes, probably the worse it is. But Dave, what's your reaction to that? Were you kind of feeling the same way?
Well, okay. So, great points, Chad. And I think, yes, there's a balance, right? Between being, so fearful that you can't make a choice and you're stuck in whatever rut it is, and overwhelmed with the situation. That's reality. There are people that are in that boat. And I don't know of anybody that's confident right now, but you can't let that overwhelming fear just prevent you from thinking wisely, and doing the best that you can.
Yep.
And if you find yourself in that place, it's all right, whatever it is, pray for you, turn to God, turn to whatever it is that you find some strength in, and get yourself out of that rut. And when you make a choice, be confident in it. I had to make some of the hardest choices in my entire career.
Yep.
And going into those, I have 14 employees and I fired 10 of them.
Yep.
And I did it for their benefit. And all the way up to maybe an hour or two before, I'd planned it for 2 days, or, with legal counsel and everything, going through all the new laws and everything. all the way going up into it, I was like, oh my gosh, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? I think, and I believe that I did do the best thing for my employees that I could have. Now, now the cards fall where they may. I mean, do they get on the traditional unemployment? Do they get on this new FMLA thing? Whichever it's going to be, it's going to be. And but I think I've done the best I could do. So kind of like what you said, you made the choice to close your office. Now you kind of have some sense of peace about you. And I feel the same way. And
Dave, I just wanted to point out kind of some of the stuff that we did after that. And if someone's hearing this week, you can still implement that, is to bring your group together if that's even allowed. But at the time that we did this, we had a group team meeting, and I brought out a marker board and 3M sticky paper on the wall and everything. And the first thing that we did, I mean, actually, I believe it or not, I opened in prayer too. I hate to make it overly spiritual to a group that doesn't know me and thinks that I'm just trying to, make it, sound like I'm just like, making it a spiritual. No, it really was a cry to God to, to help us through this. And then I opened by saying, okay, here's our mission statement. And in that mission statement, what words stick out to you? And we went through that and we talked about those being some of our values that we're going to try and accomplish even when we're not seeing patients. Then I said, what are you afraid of? And we got a sheet of paper and we started writing down fears and worries and stuff. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage. I'm not going to be able to, have patience. I'm not going to be able. So all that kind of stuff. We wrote that kind of stuff down. Then we started working on, okay, what are some solutions and specific to the calendar, like the schedule? And then also, what are some solutions just in general for this? Then I also branched off of one of our keywords in our mission statement is generosity, one of generosity to the patients, the employees, and the community. And so I said, how do we be generous to the employees, the patients, and the community within this garbage that we're handed? So what do we do? And we started coming up with a list of things. Then I started saying, okay, let's say then that we achieve these goals. What are going to be some of our rewards? I mean, so first we talked about what are our goals. Obviously we can't see patients right now, but what are our goals for the next month? When we return for the rest of the year, what are some of our goals? And then I went back and I said, okay, so what are our rewards for hitting some of these goals? And so, talking that stuff through. So that way, and I still got dressed. I got up and shaved. I, went to work as though I was the business owner. And you saw that picture. It's just like, it's time to go to work, even though we're not working. And frankly, as a business owner, even though we're not getting paid, but the goal is to go in there. And I basically wanted to reset. And even though my workout place is closed, that's why I was biking out in the rain the other day. I was just like, listen, is it fun riding out in the rain in 50 degrees? No. But am I going to do it because number one, I'm crazy, and number two, I need to burn off this energy and keep focused? Regan, you know how important it is to me to work out, so that way I'm ready to be focused. Is basically it channels my energy and gets rid of that nervous muscular movement that I want to do, and it makes me go, all right. So I've had an hour of sitting on the bike looking at the pavement, and I've thought through some of the stuff that basically I'm forced. It's kind of like meditation, but it's a focused meditation. So Dave, I hate to have stolen your time on this.
Oh, you're fine. I love it.
Regan, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say fear is. They always say that fear is even worse than the reality of it. So sitting down and talking with your team about it, and a lot of dentists, and if you're listening and you haven't made that decision yet or are right on the cusp of it, you can include the team in your conversation. In that like Chad did, or and I think, I think everybody wants to make the very best decision possible. I was on the FMLA call the other night, and I think it's noble to try to push it through and try to use up your reserves. But if you do that and nobody's working and nobody's doing anything, is that really, other than your emotions, because we all care for everybody. I mean, I learned through this process, what I learned is that our clients, our PDA clients, are the same to me emotionally as my team, which I call my family. So that was a surprise to me, in that I was hurting just as much as they were hurting, and like, gosh, want to get them out of that situation bad. So if you can separate the emotions and look at what the options are and say, okay, do they get unemployment? Do they have the FMLA benefits? It will be temporary. To me, I see my anxiety and my fear just dropping. And I think
and you
that's
don't
the
have
best
to
for
needlessly
everybody.
fall on the sword. Right.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
and I think the big thing, if you're not doing anything, if you are sitting back waiting for things to happen and fall out, then honestly, I think that's the biggest mistake that we can make. And I am certain that the vast majority of PDA dentists are not doing that. But just to talk on that for a moment, the biggest mistakes I'm hearing are the guys that are just saying, "Oh, we're staying open." That's literally. In our area, we had two dental offices that I've heard of. I don't even know who they are exactly, but I've heard of them. That their staff came in and mutinied, said, "That's it. We are not working another day. Seeing patients is normal."
Right.
And
I have seen some of those on the Facebook groups, on different Facebook groups. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? And one of them was making a mistake. The other one was based out of fear. He was frozen. He couldn't make a choice, and he thanked his staff, which I applaud him for being, humble enough to do that.
That is very humble.
Yeah. And he just didn't know what to do. So there's probably a gamut of those kind of things. But at the end of the day, it's like, don't sit around and wait for someone else to tell you what to do. Right now, figure it out for yourself. I mean, obviously listen to a podcast, or you're going to get some. I've listened to a few myself. I've had some really good counsel on, and we need to be doing that. We need to be searching out the answers to some of these most immediate problems. And then once we get past these, all right, now we're going to worry about finding toilet paper.
Right. Buddy, give us all give us all a wrap up of some good news in life, and what keeps you going, buddy.
Well, okay, so you said earlier you don't want to go too religious, and I got to go religious.
Do it.
I feel like I've been through, in 07, 08, we had a hard time back then. It was a very scary time. In that time, I did everything I could to control everything, and I thought I could. And I got to a point where I realized I couldn't. And I did that, and at the same moment, I realized, okay, God, if I believe in you, and if this is part of your plan, I've got to trust you. And I got to a point where I realized the only thing I can really count on is God. All of our money, all of our safety, all of our businesses, all those things literally can go away. And the only thing we'll have left is God. And so faith is what keeps me centered. And I don't want to say that I'm like this, perfect pillar of, I'm going to, get through this with no fear whatsoever. But I mean, at the end of the day, that foundation of faith is what's got me through it and continues to get me through it.
Yep.
So that's the biggest thing that I can say.
I thought it was really cool. I saw this article because if any of you listeners are like me, you're doing a lot of reading and podcast listening and webinar watching and to the max. And some of it might not even be dentistry, and some of it might not be COVID related. But one that I thought was interesting was how it was talking about, the bitter things that God hands us, or, allows to happen. And that when we've got when you've got a cake, if you were to try each ingredient, in a baking situation, of course, the sugar is sweet and the flour isn't bad. But if you had to try baking soda, or if you had to try baking powder and stuff like that alone, or even the salt, it's just like, I don't know if I like that. But then you mix it all together, and it's the ingredients to a good outcome. So I really liked that, because what they were talking about was there's a verse in the New Testament, that Romans 8:28, that talks about all things work together for those that love God and stuff. And it's tough pill to swallow when you hear that, because you're thinking, like, okay, so are you saying that everything is good? It's like, no, that's not what the verse is saying. And that's not what Paul, when he wrote that, was saying. He was saying that all things work together when you look at them in the end product. Yes, you might be eating a poor economy right now, but in the end, it's a working out for the good. And just like a cake, it's like I wouldn't want to eat each ingredient, but each ingredient together as a symphony becomes a good product. So just something worth considering, people, is that, this is not good, but at the same time, we don't see the biggest picture that in the long run there might be a good outcome to this, and it could be 20 years from now. I don't know what that means, but just the fact is, I'm not in charge. And Dave, you're saying the same thing. We're not in charge of everything. So sometimes you just have to give it up. Even if you're not much religious, you'd have to be like, well, I'm just going to have to give it up to the universe. That's
something.
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
buddy, I appreciate you coming on the show today. Regan, any closing thoughts?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I do. I have a closing question. We've already asked Dave the bacon or eggs one, so I have a new one for you.
Yes. Are you going to do it?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm nervous.
Toilet paper or bidet?
Wow, that's a great question to be considering. At the moment, I am all in on toilet paper.
Well, listeners to Everyday Practices, now you have, I don't want to say the inside scoop. I don't know. Thanks everybody for coming on. We will be back next week, and hopefully it'll be bright and sunny next week wherever you are. I'm really hoping that for everyone, for our sake. So stay sane. Email us if you have any concerns that you really want to bring up, whether it's Regan at productivedentist.com, Chad at productivedentist.com. And there's no Dave at productivedentist.com, but if I do have his email. So if you want, I can pass any questions or thoughts or concerns along to them. We're there for you guys.
Too.
Yes, absolutely. So have a great week. We'll talk to you next week on Everyday Practices.
All right, guys. Take care.
Bring your lunch or take us to the gym again next week to improve your everyday practices. Also, subscribe on iTunes, follow us on social media, and sign up for our email list. Now get out there and win with Everyday Practices.